Welcome to Bookies Talk on the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast. I'm Erica O'Rourke, one of the Reader's Advisors here at the library, and I'm joined today by my colleague Marianne Charles.
Hello.
We're thrilled you're here to talk with us about all things bookish. Now, Marianne, I would say it is a safe bet that neither of us gravitate towards historical fiction. Would you agree with that?
I would wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
It's not that I dislike it. It's just that, given my druthers, I just sort of naturally go towards mystery or sci-fi.
Thriller, romance.
Yeah, but one of my sort of reading intentions for the new year was to push my boundaries and try new or less familiar things.
I agree. I said I just need to get more well-rounded. I had to get outside my comfort zone a little bit when our patrons come up to the desk and need advice on what's the next great book. And if they say, oh, I love historical fiction, I can say, oh, gee, I haven't read any in 2 years. Instead, I can say, I just read this terrific book.
And I believe that you did just read a terrific book.
I did read a terrific book, The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. So let me tell you, first line. Alvarez Antonio Sonoro was born with gold in his eye.
That'll suck you right in.
It grabbed me. That visual just grabbed me. I was fascinated, wanted to learn more. So it's a Western with sparks of magic. So there I could get pulled in. Magic. So kind of new reading territory for me. Westerns generally will give me visions of cattle drives, Laura Ingalls Wilder and Little Houses on the Prairies, and stagecoaches. But this is a story about cursed books, ghosts, and the impact our ancestors' choices have on us in the present.
It sounds amazing.
It's amazing. You
Tell
have
me
our
more.
two main characters. Antonio Sonoro, he's a fearsome bandito. That's the term our author uses throughout. And he's our titular bullet swallower. So second is Jaime Sonoro. He's the great-grandson of the bullet swallower. Jaime is the star of extremely successful Mexican ranchera film comedies. Our story switches back and forth between these two characters. We follow how our bullet swallower heads off on one last heist, witnesses his brother's killing, and he earns his frightening nickname. In our parallel narrative, we follow Jaime as he meets the family ghost, finds a cursed book of family lore, and puts the bullet swallower's story to film. So we have this story shifting back and forth between the eras. It made this book even more fascinating for me, was that it's based on our author's actual family history.
Really?
Yes, including her great-grandfather, who is the origin story for the bullet swallower.
That is very cool.
Very cool. So then I can get behind that. So our author, James, tells us in the note, everything in this book is true, except for the stuff I made up.
Oh, I love that.
I thought, this is hilarious. So again, a terrific read that beautifully, beautifully illustrates the generational impact of choice. Mm-hmm. If you like Cormac McCarthy, you're going to like this book. If you like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, or even, here's a ghosty one, V.E. Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. That kind of shows you all these impact choices have on our present day.
Yeah.
Tell me, Erica, you had...
I also read historical fiction, and my choice is a little bit of a ringer. I loved Ariel Lawton's Codename Helene when it came out in 2020.
Spy.
I love a good spy book.
Yes.
We actually invited her to come on the podcast, and during that conversation, I always ask the authors what they're working on right now, and she said, I've started this book based on the diary of a real-life midwife that I just thought was, fascinating. Wow. And this is the book that she was talking about. It's The Frozen River, historical fiction based on Martha Ballard. She's a real-life Maine midwife from the late 1700s. She delivered more than 1,000 babies.
Holy
and
moly.
Never lost a mother. Not a one.
Wow.
So this story really hones in on the winter of 1789, when a local man is found dead in a river. As the town's midwife and healer, Martha is the one that's called to perform the autopsy and declare the cause of death.
So it's not even a story about her.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
it
birthing.
is. Because it's all taking place, and she's recording everything in her journal. And her journal is a real-life document. You can buy a copy of it. And it's very evident to her that the man died by hanging. And it was murder, not suicide, because the rope is gone. Nobody in town is sad about this. They are all like, good riddance to bad rubbish, because this man was accused of raping the local pastor's wife. The problem is, the guy who is dead is not the only man accused of the rape. The other person accused is the town judge, who's presiding over the hearing that determines this man's cause of death.
Conflict of interest here?
And so Martha says, it was murder. And the judge says, well, actually, we have a real doctor in town. Let's hear from him. And the doctor says, oh, heck no, this was an accident. He just slipped and fell.
Oh, my.
Clearly, there's more to the story. And Martha is so determined to find out the truth. She wants justice for her friend, and she wants the truth about this man's murder to come out. She chronicles all of this, along with her daily life and the babies that she's birthing. It's all in her journal. Martha is a fantastic character. She is complicated, she's strong, she's funny, she calls things like she sees them. Martha also has this really unique position in town. Because she is a midwife, she gets certain legal privileges afforded to her, but she's still very limited. At one point, she goes to testify, and if her husband isn't there in the room with her, she's not allowed to testify.
What?
It's just not permitted. And so you see, even though she does have more rights than a lot of women, they're still very curtailed by the system.
Just how it was in 1789.
Which is how it was in 1789. And you know, she draws some parallels between then and now. The result is that Martha feels very relatable, but she also still feels of her time. It doesn't feel anachronistic that you've got this really strong-willed character.
You don't feel like you have a woman from 2024 living in 1789.
Exactly. This is a great choice for book clubs, especially if you're a club that enjoys historical fiction. It's a no-brainer. If you think you might want to dip your toe in, this is a great place to start. There's plenty to discuss in terms of women's roles, marriage and family, and questions about what is justice, what does it look like, who deserves it. There's plenty to unpack here.
Fascinating. Just awesome.
If you're looking for a more contemporary book discussion, you can't do better than this year's One Book, One Community selection, The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocumb. It's the story of Ray McMillan, a young black classical violinist from North Carolina, who has discovered that his family's hand-me-down fiddle is actually a priceless Stradivarius. On the eve of the Tchaikovsky competition, someone steals his violin, and with like a month or two to go before this crucial performance, he has to track down the violin and figure out who stole it and either pay the ransom or find the culprit and get it back. And the book traces how the violin came into his possession and who all of the possible suspects are, as well as chronicling what it's like to be a person of color in a field that hasn't always been receptive to that. So it's a great story, it's a great mystery, and it is eminently discussable. Now, you, Marianne, are the expert on all things related to this.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about it?
I can tell you more. This is my third year of involvement in the One Book, One Community program, which is a collaboration between Cook Memorial, Indian Trails, and Vernon area libraries. We're looking to encourage conversation and build community through books. That's the goal of the program. So in the past, we've read books like The Bohemians by Jasmine Darsenic, Circe by Madeline Miller, The Story Hour by 30 Umriger. So lots of really interesting books. So we start the program in early December each year with a fabulous book giveaway. This year we gave away all our copies that were so graciously purchased and donated to us by the Friends of the Library. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Friends of the Library.
Thank you, Friends of the Library.
Then we get started in January with programs. And when I say programs, I mean programs with a capital P. So we have book discussions. We have February 13th in the afternoon at Cook Park Library and February 22nd in the evening at Aspen Drive. So that hopefully if you work kind of a 9 to 5, you can at least come one evening.
Yeah.
And they'll all be hybrid as well, especially with this time of year, with the weather being a little less than cooperative sometimes.
Absolutely.
We also have a luthier coming in.
A what, Marianne?
That would be a luthier. Or if you're living on the continent, meaning Europe, a luthier. So this is an individual who repairs, builds, creates violins.
Oh, so cool.
So cool. We have the wonderful Spencer Hammond of Classic Violins, and he'll be here on January 29th in the evening, again, to discuss the history and evolution of violins. He'll have actual instruments to see and touch, as well as a question and answer session. This is a program geared to adults and teens, and it's a drop-in. No registration is necessary. If you have younger people in your family, you should consider attending Vernon Area Library's Instrument Petting Zoo.
Oh, perfect.
And go to our One Book, One Community website to see where they are to register for that program. The Vernon Area and Indian Trails Library programs all require registration. But our patrons are welcome to attend those. So another program we have that I'm thrilled about here at Cook is we get LaRob K. Raphael of WFMT to come to Aspen Drive on the evening of February 15th. Mr. Raphael is a classically trained vocal musician. He is going to discuss the contributions of Black musicians to classical music. I'm just couldn't be more thrilled.
It is so
hearing
exciting.
his voice on the radio and getting to see him in person is going to be incredible. And again, that is a drop-in program, and that's the evening of February 15th. We also have movie presentations of The Red Violin, starring Samuel L. Jackson. Will be showing at the Libertyville Civic Center and at the Aspen Drive Library, February 8th in Libertyville, February 9th in Vernon Hills. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the actual author, Brendan Slocumb, coming to town for an in-person discussion of the book and a live question and answer session at Stevenson High School on Sunday, February 25th from 1 to 2.
Fantastic.
So fantastic. He is also, Mr. Slocumb, a classically trained violinist. So the story's somewhat based a little bit on some of his experiences. Mm-hmm. If you want a full rundown of the program, go to the One Book, One Community website at onebook.org. That's the number 1, BOOK.org. And I hope so many of you come and enjoy the programs. I think they're really exciting.
It is a fantastic slate. You really outdid yourself this year. I'm so excited.
This is an amazing story. If you haven't read it, we have extra copies in our e-library. So via Hoopla, via Libby, and via Cloud Library. Take a look, check those out, or, get yourself on the wait list here at the library.
Yeah, we've got a lot of copies circulating, so it shouldn't be too long of a wait. We'll be sure to put links to all of the titles we've discussed in the show notes, as well as a link to the One Book, One Community website, which has information about the programs available at all of our participating libraries. If you'd like more recommendations from the Bookies, you can always find us on the library's website, as well as Shelf Life the blog, or by emailing us. And as always, we encourage you to share this episode with your friends and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.